Hello, Blaze Radio listeners. I'm Zach Bradshaw. You are watching Blaze Radio's exclusive coverage of the South by Southwest Film Festival in Austin, Texas, that took place last week and over the weekend. And today, I have the honor of speaking with Dom Lewis. He composed the music for The Fall Guy, starring Ryan Gosling. This is one of the premier feature premieres at the South by Southwest Film Festival. Dom, you were in Austin for this screening, the premiere of The Fall Guy. I mean, describe the atmosphere to me in Austin watching this premiere.
It was pretty electric. It was probably the craziest experience of watching a film I've ever had, and I'm not even lying. There was cheering, there was shock, there was clapping. I mean, they were the best audience I've ever been a part of. It was incredible.
That is so cool. What was it kind of like? I mean, you worked on this film extensively, obviously, but what was it like to see your work really come to fruition and manifest itself in front of a big screen with a big audience? I mean, like it was describe to me your pride there in being able to do that.
I mean, it's always great. It's always like a highlight to be able to do that with an audience that have never seen it. But for some reason, this one, it was the first time I've ever got emotional with the response from the crowd. I mean, I can't stress how insane it was. The hairs stood up on the back of my neck. My eyes filled. I'm very sensitive, but my eyes filled up with water, and like 'cause people were clapping and whooping, and it was just so cool to be part of that experience.
That is so incredible. So for the viewers who don't know, The Fall Guy stars Ryan Gosling as well as Emily Blunt. It's about a stuntman who almost has a career-ending accident. But he goes back into service for a movie, and it's actually directed by his ex, and so she goes missing, and they have to solve this conspiracy and try to win back love of his life, but while being a fall guy. And so, I mean, it's just this crazy like ride of emotions. But Dom, in your perspective, what is The Fall Guy?
What is it? I think The Fall Guy is essentially a rom-com wrapped up in an insane action film. Um, it's got everything. It's got heart, it's got laughs, it's got action, it's got thriller. It's just a really awesome, fun time. Um, doesn't take itself too seriously, but yet it's just got everything we love about cinema in it. And I think that was the goal from everybody is, it's a love letter to film, it's a love letter to stunts. For me personally, I wanted to get as much of my inspirations and my experiences as a musician into it, ranging from like the 60s all the way through to now musically. So yeah, that's a very long-winded explanation of what the Fall Guy is, but it's so many things, yet it's such a wonderful, unique thing on its own. So yeah.
And so you're working on the sounds of this film. The reason it's such a fun, crazy, but like comedic, romantic atmosphere is in large part because of the sounds behind the film. So what were you kind of telling yourself before going into this film? How did you want to create the atmosphere of this film, and what was your kind of goal in composing it?
Well, the process was kind of a different one for me. From the start, we were dubbing Bullet Train, and we would started to talk about, what's the music going to be. And within the script at that point, there was a very prominent Kiss material in the script because Dave really wanted a band that was super kitsch but super cool, and the Kiss was the obvious choice. So from the very start, Kiss was kind of his North Star. It didn't end up being so prominent within the script, but I went through so many explorations and experiments to try and figure out what the sound was of this film. Started out super 80s because I thought it'd be cool to have that juxtaposition of like a new movie but with an 80s soundtrack. Um, and it was cool, but a lot of people were like, "No, it just feels like we're trying to pull the movie back to the 80s instead of, pushing it into the new and the fresh." And so a little bit of that remains, but we got back to this point of like, okay, well, what if Kiss is still the North Star? So I Was Made for Loving You was always going to be part of the soundtrack. It was always going to, I believe, was always going to end the film. Um, so we kind of extracted stuff from that and was like, well, what if this is sort of Colt, played by Ryan, what if it's like his little theme that he's sort of singing in his head whilst he's doing all this kind of stuff? So it kind of became Colt's theme. Um, so I extracted, you know, the main guitar riff, the chorus melody, the bass lines, and then weaving my themes through that, we came up with a really cool blend of stuff. So we still had some of that rock 80s. I had some synth 80s in there. And also way, way, way back, David called me and said, I really want to have a, you know, traditional 80s movie love ballad. So I got working on that, wrote that. Everybody loved it. And then when we tried to put it in the movie, it was just so on the nose that it just like we really tried. We really tried to put it in multiple parts of the film, but it was just too much. So it ended up in the credits, which is cool. But that became the love theme. So what with my Fall Guy theme, and then the love theme from the song and the Kiss stuff, that is kind of the genetics of the score. And so you've got everything from, you know, 80s rock and synth all the way through to like big orchestral music. And it's just a really cool blend of all of my inspirations as a film composer.
That is so incredible. Now, I think a lot of people are wondering, how did you and David initially connect? Like, describe to me that connection process. Where did you guys meet, and how did you work up to kind of like doing train or excuse me, films like Bullet Train and The Fall Guy?
It was on Bullet Train, and I got a call from my agent saying that David and Kelly wanted to have a Zoom with me. It was pandemic time, so no one was doing anything in person. So they wanted to meet me. I think they wanted to kind of move in a different direction with their music and their movies. So I was put forward by a music supervisor called Susan Kent and the head of music of Sony's Spring Aspers. Um, so they met me. We got on really well. I'd read the Bullet Train script. We were kind of talking generally and about Bullet Train. Um, and then I went away and I made a Spotify playlist of all the kind of like inspirations that were going through my head. And so we had a second meeting, and we went through all the playlists, and I was talking about, you know, what we could do with this, what we could do with that. And at the end of the playlist, both of them were like, well, we want to do your deal. We want to work with you. And I was like, what? So pinching myself. Um, and we just hit it off. We just hit it off from the start. There was ultimate trust from the start. They're both very musically inclined and they know a lot about music, but they know when to be like, okay, this is your deal. Like, we know you're the musician and composer. We trust you. And yeah, I mean, we just get on and we just have very similar outlooks on music and film and, you know, thinking outside the box, trying to do something different. And it's just a really great relationship. And I feel super lucky that they kind of brought me into their world and I've been able to hang around, you know. I did Violent Night with their company as well. So, um, yeah, it's my favorite. I love working with them. It's the best.
That's incredible. I think so because I wasn't able to see in this film, and a lot of people obviously haven't been able to see it because it hasn't come out yet. But
Yeah.
does Ryan Gosling have like his own song? That's what it sounds like?
Uh, you mean is he singing?
Yes.
No, 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 no.
Okay.
He's not singing. You know, this was no, he's not doing any renditions of I'm Just Ken or anything like that. No, he it was more like, you know, if he was to have like a, you know, when we do stuff and we have like a inner monologue of a song, it was kind of that idea. But yeah, so no, he's not singing. He doesn't have a song. It's just like the elements of that song I Was Made for Loving You by Kiss became his theme, essentially.
I see. So that makes more sense. Well, and so but obviously Ryan Gosling, he has this very like, as you mentioned, like romantic. It's a rom-com. He has this like goofy kind of tone about him. He's a very silly guy. He's a stunt man. He's doing all these stunts out here. But how did you kind of like curate this theme for him as a person? Was it more of his like his choice? Were you more creating this off of his like character or off of his like actual self as an actor?
Um, I mean, a kind of combination of both. You mentioned the word goofy, um, and there is an element of that to this character and his performance. But he's also super cool. And that's why we came back to Kiss, because it's the two elements. It's the kitschy, goofy, cheesy, whatever you want to call it, along with the super cool. And that's why when I started working in the Kiss elements to him, and when he was kind of like skulking around and doing his thing, it just worked. It just clicked, you know. And I think the more 80s things I was doing, you know, a la Faltermeyer stuff, inspired by, it was too much on the goofy side of things. It wasn't cool enough for 2024. Would have been super cool in 84, but for 2024, not so much. So that's why Kiss came back. It was still 80s, but it had a little bit more grit. It was, you know, it was cool, but it was also kitsch. And that's very much his character. He's super cool, but he's got that goofy quality to him, and lovable quality.
Did you ever like laugh at the music itself when you were creating it? Just like thought it like sounded. What was like kind of your reaction when you first like heard the fully composed like song?
Um, no, I didn't laugh. I mean, laughing at his performance. I'm not laughing at the music as such, but it's so funny. I mean, his performance is incredible. The chemistry between him and Emily is amazing. And, you know, a lot of the early reviews have been saying that too from South by. So, I mean, he's just fantastic. He can do serious, he can do comedy, he can do action, he can do anything. So, I mean, he really shows everything in this movie too. And it's almost like, well, you thought he was great in Barbie, like watch him in this, because I think he steps it up even further, which, you know, a lot of people probably wouldn't think was possible, but he's unbelievable in this film. He's so good.
That is so cool. To look back, I mean, you mentioned that you have done so many different films: Violent Night, My Spy, The King's Man. How did these films prepare you to create this film and the music for this film?
Yeah, I've done a lot of action. I didn't start out wanting to do a lot of action, but somehow I just kind of fell into it. I think with David's films, it's like we're really trying to do something a little different. We're trying to approach action music in a different way, especially like starting from the Bullet Train side of things. We really wanted to kind of take it from a needle drop perspective. You know, Dave is a very needle drop orientated guy anyway. That's where he really gets his teeth stuck in, and he chooses a lot of the needle drops himself, obviously with help of music supervisors, but he's very involved in that. Um, so I'm just trying to do things for him that remind him of that. Like, what, instead of it being like a needle drop here, we actually have to tell story better than a needle drop can. So how can I incorporate that approach into the way I score stuff? So a lot of the action music I do for Dave's movies is sort of band or synth orientated, and then the kind of orchestra is sort of my last thought. Um, so it does have that needle drop feel, but it's also, you can weave in and out of stuff and you can tell story. And I mean, that's a lot of the time why I'm using vocals often myself on this film. We got to work with Youngblood, which was awesome. A wonderful singer called D Clay, as a featured vocalist. And so Bullet Train was very much like the Dom Lewis show. Like, my voice was everywhere, and I didn't want Fall Guy to be that. I wanted it to be something different. So I used other vocalists as well as myself on it. But it is just to give it that needle drop feel and to kind of push it out of cliche, not cliche, but like traditional action music. A lot of, I'm trying to do something that we haven't really heard before, in terms of like film music. We've heard the sounds before, obviously, because it's a rock band or it's a synth patch or whatever it is. But the approach, like coming from a different angle to try and make it a little bit different. And then we have the LA premiere of Fall Guy in April at some point before the May 3rd release. So that'll be super fun.
Well, Dom, congratulations. It sounds like an absolutely electric just atmosphere at South by Southwest. I'm so proud that you're able to get this film out there. And very exciting for you. I mean, dude, your resume is getting so big with just huge films, huge productions. You are such a talented person, and I thank you so much for your time today. This is incredible, and congratulations at South by Southwest. That sounds amazing.
Oh, thanks so much. Pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Those who want to watch Fall Guy, yeah, again, as Dom mentioned, Fall Guy will be out on May 3rd in theaters. And Dom, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.